Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa salatu wa salamu, ala Sayyidina Muhammad, wa ala alihi wa asabihi ajma'een, amma ba'd, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Have you ever sat alone and wondered why some parts of your life feel like they refuse to move? As if Allah placed you in a moment you can't escape? Sometimes it feels like you're waiting for the world to understand your pain, your story, your silent battles. Those moments, a whisper enters the heart. What if this moment wasn't meant to break you, but to remake you? There comes a realization. Subtle, gentle, almost like the heart finally understanding a language it always knew, that Allah shapes us through the unseen. Allah says that He is closer than our jugular vein, closer than the tears we never speak about, closer than the thoughts we don't know how to confess. And when Allah is that close, every delay has a wisdom, every closed door has protection, every heartbreak has purpose. Pain becomes a strange companion. It visits without warning. It rearranges everything inside you. It humbles you. It forces you to face what you've avoided. But Islam teaches that pain is not a punishment. It is preparation. This is what Sabr truly means. Not enduring life with a clenched jaw, but trusting that even the ache in your chest is part of Allah's mercy. And in that sacred struggle, the Qur'an offers 4 principles that have the power to transform everything. First, sincerity. When you return to Allah honestly, without masks, without roles, without pretending that you're fine, Allah knows the tremble in your voice before you speak. When you're sincere, Allah opens doors you didn't know existed. Second, sabr, the patience that softens the heart instead of hardening it. Remember, the Prophet taught us that patience is at the moment of the first shock. It is choosing trust even when you're shaking. Third, shukr. Gratitude not only when life is beautiful, but when life is confusing. Gratitude during ease is thanks. Gratitude during hardship is faith. Fourth, tawakkul. Handing your worries back to the one who was never worried. Trusting that what is written for you will reach you even if the entire world runs away from you. Because qadr is not randomness, it is divine precision. And so the journey back to Allah becomes less about controlling life and more about surrendering to the one who already controls it. Healing begins the moment you say, Ya Allah, I don't know what's next, but I know you do. So carry these principles with you every day. Be sincere with Allah. Be patient with what pains you. Be grateful in all circumstances. And trust the decree that was written with divine love. Change will come. Hearts will mend. Doors will open. Because the one who walks toward Allah never walks alone. Real change begins with an honest conversation with your own soul. And that conversation is often the hardest one to have. It requires you to pause the noise of the world, silence the expectations of others, and listen to the quiet truths you've been avoiding. Most people want to change their lives, but they rarely look inside with sincerity. They want new outcomes without confronting old wounds, new beginnings without addressing inner endings. But the Qur'an reminds us that Allah does not change the condition of a people until they change what is within themselves. That means transformation doesn't start when circumstances shift, it starts when you do. An honest conversation with your soul is not about self-blame, it's about self-awareness. It's looking at your heart and asking, what am I running from? What pain am I burying? What habits are pulling me away from Allah? What fears are stopping me from becoming who I'm meant to be? When you stop pretending to be strong and allow yourself to be truthful, you unlock the kind of change that lasts. This honesty creates space for healing. Many people feel stuck because they are carrying emotions they never confronted. Resentment, guilt, disappointment, envy, insecurity. These emotions sit heavy on the heart and darken the spirit. When you speak to your soul with sincerity, you begin to identify what needs cleansing, what needs forgiveness, and what needs letting go. It's a process that takes courage. But Allah rewards every step taken toward clarity. And in that moment of inward truth, something beautiful happens. Your heart softens. You begin to understand your own weaknesses without shame and your own strengths without arrogance. You realize you don't need to be perfect to return to Allah. You just need to be honest. That is where real change begins, with a soul willing to face itself and a heart ready to be guided by the one who created it. Allah never burdens you except to grow you into someone stronger. A truth that sounds comforting, yet becomes deeply transformative when you truly internalize it. Every difficulty that enters your life arrives with divine knowledge, divine precision, and divine purpose. Nothing is accidental, nothing is meaningless. Allah, who knows the fragility of your heart better than you do, would never place upon you a burden that serves no benefit to your soul. Each trial is measured, tailored to your capacity, and designed to elevate you in ways you may not understand right now. Strength in Islam is not about becoming emotionally numb or untouched by hardship. It is about becoming spiritually anchored. When Allah allows a difficulty to touch your life, it is because He sees a version of you that you have not discovered yet, a stronger, wiser, more compassionate version. Hardship is the bridge that leads you to that version. Without it, you would remain where you are, safe but stagnant, comfortable but unchanged. Often you don't feel strong in the moment. You feel overwhelmed, uncertain, broken even. But strength isn't the absence of struggle. It's the ability to keep turning to Allah through the struggle. Tears do not contradict strength. Fear does not contradict strength. What matters is that your heart keeps moving toward Him, even if your steps are small and trembling. Allah's tests are not traps. They are invitations to rise, to reflect, to realign your priorities, to reshape your character. Sometimes He removes something from your life to teach you reliance. Sometimes He delays something to teach you patience. Sometimes He closes a door to protect you from harm you cannot see. When you realize that every burden carries a hidden gift, your entire perspective shifts. You stop asking, why me? And start asking, what is Allah trying to teach me? And that shift, that willingness to see growth in hardship, becomes the beginning of true spiritual strength. Tawakkul means trusting that Allah's timing is always deliberate, always purposeful, always infused with wisdom, far beyond what your heart can grasp in the moment. It is easy to say, I trust Allah, when life moves according to your plans. But the real depth of tawakkul is revealed when nothing seems to make sense, when doors close, when prayers feel unanswered, when the path ahead feels foggy and uncertain. In those moments, Allah invites you to rely on Him in a way that transforms fear into calm, anxiety into surrender, and confusion into clarity. Trusting Allah's timing is understanding that delays are not denials. They are divine pauses meant to shape you, strengthen you, and prepare you for what you asked for, or something far better. Sometimes you think you are ready for a blessing, but Allah knows the unseen obstacles that would have broken you had it come too early. At other times, He withholds something because He wants to protect you, redirect you, or purify you before granting you what you truly need. Tawakkul doesn't mean you stop trying. It means you tie your camel, make sincere effort, and then let your heart rest knowing that what reaches you is written with mercy. You don't rush what Allah has perfectly timed. You don't cling to what He has removed. You don't despair over what He has delayed. You trust that He is managing your affairs with love. And when you practice this trust, you begin to taste a beautiful peace. You stop controlling outcomes and start focusing on your relationship with the One who controls everything. You realize that if Allah is the one orchestrating your journey, then you are exactly where you need to be, even if it doesn't feel like it yet. Tawakkul teaches you that Allah's timing is not just perfect. It is personalized, crafted specifically for your soul's growth and your heart's ultimate good. True Sabr is not passive waiting, but active faith during hardship, a concept often misunderstood and underestimated. Many people imagine Sabr as simply enduring pain in silence, holding back tears or forcing themselves to smile through heartbreak. But in Islam, Sabr is a dynamic, living state of the heart. It is the strength to remain connected to Allah when every part of your life feels like it's falling apart. It is the courage to keep doing what is right, even when emotions pull you in every direction. Sabr is movement, not stagnation. It is resilience fueled by trust. Sabr means facing your struggles without losing the conviction that Allah is with you. It means whispering Alhamdulillah, not because everything is perfect, but because you believe that Allah's plan is unfolding exactly as it should. It means continuing your prayers even when your heart feels heavy, continuing your efforts even when results seem invisible, and continuing your hope even when the storm hasn't passed yet. Real Sabr is choosing faith over fear. It is not pretending that everything is easy. It is accepting that difficulty is part of the journey while believing that Allah never leaves you alone in it. It is not suppressing your emotions. It is channeling them toward prayer, dua, reflection, and growth. Hearts break, tears fall, confusion rises. But sabr is the decision not to let those moments distance you from Allah. Sabr teaches you that healing takes time, that change takes effort, and that Allah's promises are worth waiting for. It purifies your character, strengthens your Iman, and deepens your closeness to the one who sees every silent struggle. When you practice true Sabr, you begin to feel a quiet power inside you, a power that doesn't come from your own strength but from relying on Allah. And that is when patience stops being painful and becomes transformative, turning hardship into a path towards spiritual elevation. Allah heals hearts in ways the world cannot see, and this truth becomes clearer the more you reflect on your own life. There are wounds you don't talk about, nights you cried quietly, moments that left marks no one else can understand. People may offer comfort, but their words can only reach so deep. The real healing, the kind that transforms pain into wisdom and heartbreak into closeness with Allah, comes from the one who created the heart in the first place. Healing from Allah is subtle. It doesn't always arrive with dramatic signs or sudden relief. Sometimes it comes in the form of a calm you can't explain, a strength you didn't know you had, or a shift inside you that loosens the grip of something that once felt unbearable. You look back and realize you're no longer hurting the same way. Something within you has softened, matured, or awakened, and you wonder when that change happened. That is Allah's healing at work. The world might tell you to move on quickly, to forget, to replace pain with distractions. But Allah heals you from the inside out. He heals the root, not just the symptoms. He heals through remembrance, through patience, through prayer, and through moments of surrender where you finally say, Ya Allah, I leave this pain to you. When your heart turns to Him, even in its most broken state, He begins to mend it with a mercy that no human touch can provide. And sometimes His healing is delayed because your heart is still learning, still growing, still being prepared. Allah knows when to heal you and how to heal you. His timing is not late, it is precise. His method is not always visible, it is perfect. And when the healing arrives, it doesn't just restore you, it elevates you. It turns your wounds into wisdom, your patience into strength, and your sorrow into a deeper connection with the one who never abandons you. Qadr is a reminder that nothing meant for you will ever miss you, and nothing that misses you was ever meant to be yours. This truth, when it takes root in your heart, brings a kind of serenity the world cannot shake. Qadr teaches you that your journey is not random. Every step, every delay, every loss, every blessing, every heartbreak is part of a divine script written by the one who knows your past, sees your present, and has already prepared your future. When you internalize this, life stops feeling like chaos and begins to feel like a guided path. The human heart often struggles with what it doesn't understand. You wonder why something slipped away, why someone walked out of your life, why an opportunity ended before it began. The Qadr gently reminds you that what is written for you will find its way to you even if the whole world stands against it, and what is not written for you will slip away even if you chase it with all your strength. This isn't meant to break your spirit, it is meant to free it. Qadr liberates you from regret. You begin to understand that the past could not have unfolded any other way. The doors that closed protected you. The delays that frustrated you prepared you. The disappointments that stung shaped you. Allah's decree isn't always what you wanted, but it is always what your soul needed. When you embrace Qadr, your heart becomes lighter. You stop gripping life so tightly. You stop blaming yourself for what slipped away. You stop panicking about the future because you trust that it is already held by the one who is most merciful, most wise. You still take action, still make effort, still dream, but your heart rests knowing that outcomes belong to Allah. And in that surrender, you discover something profound. Peace is not found in controlling life, but in trusting the one who controls it. Qadr teaches you that what is yours will come, and what is not will gently pass. Always with wisdom, always with purpose, and always with Allah's mercy surrounding you. Change begins the moment you stop fighting the past and surrender it to Allah. Because the truth is, many people remain stuck, not because their future is limited, but because their hearts are still chained to what has already happened. You cannot move toward who you're meant to become while holding tightly to the moments that wounded you, the mistakes that haunt you, or the people who walked away. The past cannot be rewritten, but it can be released. And the instant you place it in Allah's hands, you create room for healing, clarity, and new beginnings. Surrendering the past doesn't mean erasing memories or pretending they never hurt. It means accepting that everything that happened was part of your qadr, part of Allah's plan, part of what shaped your soul in ways you may not fully understand yet. Every disappointment, every heartbreak, every wrong turn carries a hidden lesson. When you stop resisting those lessons, they transform you instead of trapping you. Too often people replay old conversations, revisit old failures, and reopen wounds that should have been left to heal. This constant internal struggle drains the heart and dims the spirit. But surrender is different. It is not giving up, it is letting go. It is saying, Ya Allah, I don't want to carry this anymore. I leave it to you. And with that whispered dua, a weight begins to lift. When you hand your past to Allah, He replaces bitterness with wisdom, regret with growth, and sorrow with inner peace. You start seeing your experiences through a lens of mercy rather than pain. You realize that the people you lost were removed for your protection. The opportunities you missed were redirected for your benefit, and the moments that broke you were meant to build you. Real change happens when your heart becomes free from what was, ready for what will be. And nothing frees the heart more beautifully than trusting Allah with the chapters you can no longer change. Pain is often the doorway Allah uses to bring you back to Him. A truth many people only understand after their hearts have been broken, their plans have fallen apart, or their lives have taken a turn they never expected. Pain softens what arrogance hardens. It wakes up what comfort puts to sleep. It humbles you in ways success never could. And even though pain feels heavy, confusing, and sometimes unbearable, it often becomes the moment your soul begins to return to its Creator. When life is smooth, distractions multiply. You become absorbed in people, goals, and illusions of stability. But when pain arrives, everything external becomes quiet and your heart becomes exposed. In that exposed state, you see your own fragility and Allah's strength more clearly. You begin to realize how desperately you need Him, how dependent your soul is on His mercy, and how lost you are without His guidance. Pain becomes the catalyst that pushes you toward dua, reflection, repentance, and a deeper awareness of Allah. Many people look back at their hardest moments and realize those were the times they felt closest to Allah. The nights spent crying became nights spent praying. The loneliness became a space for intimate conversations with Allah. The loss became a reminder that everything temporary will eventually leave, but Allah never does. This is why pain, though difficult, is one of the greatest invitations from Allah. Pain also strips away illusions. It forces you to confront truths about yourself, your attachments, your habits, and your priorities. It reveals the weakness of relying on the dunya and the beauty of relying on Allah. And once you turn back to Him, He begins to heal you in ways no human ever could. Pain is not punishment, it is purification. It is not the end. It is the beginning of a more sincere connection with Allah. And when you answer that call, when you allow your pain to guide you back to Him, you emerge stronger, wiser, and more spiritually grounded than before. Your dua is answered in the moment that benefits your soul most. And this is one of the most comforting realities a believer can hold on to. Every time your lips whisper a prayer, every time your heart cries out to Allah, every time you raise your hands with hope or desperation, your dua is heard instantly. But the response comes with divine precision, crafted perfectly for your spiritual growth, not your temporary emotions. Allah, in His infinite wisdom, sees what you cannot see and knows what you cannot know. He answers your dua and the way, at the time, and in the form that brings you closer to Him. Sometimes you ask for something because you believe it will bring you happiness, yet Allah delays it because your heart is not ready. Sometimes you pray for a door to open, but Allah keeps it closed because walking through it would harm you. And sometimes you beg for a person, an opportunity, or a moment, but Allah withholds it because He wants to replace with something far more beautiful. That delay is not rejection, it is divine protection. There are other times when Allah answers your dua, not by giving you what you want, but by changing what you want. He transforms your heart so that the thing you once desired no longer feels right. He redirects your soul towards something more beneficial. This unseen shift is also an answer, perhaps the most merciful one. When you think your dua is unanswered, remember, Allah may be preparing the circumstances, purifying your heart, or arranging the unseen for your benefit. Your prayer is never ignored. It is either accepted immediately, delayed for a better time, or saved to uplift you on the day of judgment. In all three cases, you win. The believer's comfort lies in knowing that dua is never wasted. Every whispered plea becomes part of your destiny. Every tear shed in sujood becomes a means of mercy. And every hope you place in Allah is returned to you at the time your soul needs it most, not a second too early, not a moment too late. Allah's words transform you when you approach them with humility, because the Qur'an is not just a book to be read. It is a revelation meant to reshape the deepest parts of who you are. Many people read the Qur'an with their eyes, but only those who approach it with sincerity, softness, and openness allow it to reach their hearts. The Qur'an does not change those who read it casually. It changes those who come to it with the willingness to be guided, healed, and corrected. When you stand before Allah's words, you stand before divine wisdom that knows you better than you know yourself. The Qur'an speaks to your fears, your regrets, your hopes, your doubts, your insecurities, and your hidden wounds. But the heart must be humble enough to listen. A hardened heart sees the Qur'an as information. A humbled heart sees it as transformation. Sometimes a single verse can break your pride. Another can soothe your pain. Another can lift you when you feel lost. The Qur'an has the power to enter the cracks of your heart and shine light where you didn't even realize darkness had settled. But this happens only when you approach it with the intention to change, not just to recite. Humility means admitting that you need guidance. It means recognizing that your own wisdom is limited, your understanding imperfect, and your heart in constant need of purification. When you acknowledge this, the Qur'an becomes a companion rather than a formality, a guide rather than an obligation. The more you humble yourself before Allah's words, the more those words begin to reshape your character, softening your anger, calming your anxieties, strengthening your faith, and widening your perspective. You begin to see your life through the lens of divine truth rather than worldly illusion. And the most beautiful part is this: the Qur'an never tires of guiding you. No matter how many mistakes you make or how far you drift, when you return with humility, its verses meet you with mercy. In that meeting, you discover a transformation deeper and gentler than anything the world could ever offer. When you let go of grudges, Allah replaces the emptiness with serenity. Because holding on to pain, anger, and resentment only weighs down the heart and steals your peace. Many people carry emotional wounds far longer than necessary, not because the pain is still fresh, but because the heart hasn't learned how to release what it no longer needs. A grudge is like a knot that tightens every time you revisit the memory. It drains your energy, clouds your judgment, and distracts you from the blessings unfolding in your life right now. Forgiveness in Islam is not about pretending something didn't hurt. It is about choosing to free your heart from the emotional chains of someone else's actions. You forgive not because the other person deserves it, but because your heart deserves peace. When you release a grudge, you aren't saying the pain was insignificant. You're saying it will no longer define you. You are choosing emotional freedom over emotional imprisonment. Forgiveness softens the heart and creates space for Allah's tranquility to enter. As long as resentment lives inside you, peace has no room to settle. But the moment you say, "Ya Allah, I release this for your sake," something beautiful begins to shift. The emptiness left behind by letting go is not a loss. It becomes a space for serenity, clarity, and emotional healing. Sometimes forgiveness feels impossible because the hurt runs deep. But when you remember that Allah forgives you repeatedly, generously, without hesitation, your heart becomes more willing to let go. The more you seek Allah's forgiveness, the easier it becomes to forgive others. Allah rewards those who forgive with inner peace, elevated character, and hearts free from bitterness. Letting go is not weakness, it is strength. It takes courage to release what hurt you. But when you do, Allah fills the vacant space with something far more valuable, a peace so gentle and pure that you wonder why you ever held on to the grudge in the first place. Every test carries a message tailored specifically for your soul, and realizing this changes the way you view every hardship, every delay, and every moment of confusion in your life. Allah does not test you randomly, He tests you intentionally. Your struggles are not copied from someone else's life. They are uniquely crafted to address the exact places in your heart that need strengthening, cleansing, or awakening. What breaks someone else might elevate you, and what challenges you might be easy for another, because your tests are written according to your spiritual needs, your hidden weaknesses, and your potential for growth. When a hardship comes, it is not simply an obstacle. It is a message. It carries lessons that your soul must learn in order to rise. Sometimes the message is patience. Sometimes it is humility. Sometimes it is letting go of arrogance or learning gratitude or discovering your dependence on Allah. Every test whispers something to you, but the heart has to be quiet enough to listen. If life were effortless, you would never reflect deeply. You would never search within yourself. You would never feel the need to turn back to Allah with sincerity. Hardships become reminders that the dunya is temporary, that people are limited, and that the only true refuge is Allah. In this way, every struggle is a form of guidance, a divine nudge bringing you closer to the path meant for you. Many people ask, why me? But a more powerful question is, what is Allah teaching me through this? When you shift your perspective, the pain becomes purposeful and the hardship becomes a teacher. You begin to notice patterns, growth, and wisdom that were invisible before. Allah knows your heart's strengths and weaknesses better than you ever will. So when He sends you a test, it is because He sees something in you worth refining. Your test is not to break you, but to build you. It is a personalized journey of elevation, a message from Allah to your soul, delivered with wisdom, wrapped in mercy, and designed to bring you closer to Him. Remembrance of Allah purifies the heart from fear, anxiety, and resentment, because the human heart was never designed to carry the weight of life alone. When you disconnect from Allah, the world becomes heavier, problems feel bigger, and the soul becomes restless. But the moment you return to dhikr, something begins to shift deep within. Dhikr is not just repeating words. It is reconnecting your heart to the one who created it. It is cleansing, healing, and recalibrating your soul back to its natural state, a state of tranquility. When you say Subhanallah, your heart remembers that Allah is perfect even when your life feels imperfect. When you whisper Alhamdulillah, you acknowledge blessings even in hardship, turning anxiety into gratitude. When you recite La ilaha illallah, you reaffirm that nothing in this world deserves to be placed above Allah. Not your fears, not your stress, not your past. And when you declare Allahu Akbar, you remind yourself that Allah is greater than the problem consuming your mind. Dhikr acts like a spiritual filter. It clears away the negativity that builds up inside the heart, the resentment you hold toward others, the fear of what tomorrow brings, the anxiety that settles in your chest. Through remembrance, you release these burdens into the care of the one who can handle them. Dhikr transforms the heart from being a container of worries into a vessel of light. The more you remember Allah, the more peaceful your life becomes. Not because your problems disappear, but because your heart becomes anchored. A heart anchored in Allah doesn't drown in fear. It doesn't collapse under pressure. It doesn't cling to people or outcomes. It becomes steady, calm, and content. Even a few moments of sincere remembrance can change your emotional landscape. Dhikr softens those hardened places within you. It lifts the unseen darkness. It heals the inner wounds that no one else recognizes. And most beautifully, the more you remember Allah, the more He remembers you. In that divine attention, the heart finds a peace the world can never offer, a peace that stays with you through every storm, every worry, and every rising sun. Real transformation is built on 4 Quranic principles: sincerity, patience, gratitude, and reliance on Allah. And when these 4 settle into your heart, your entire life begins to change from the inside out. These principles are not abstract ideas. They are spiritual tools, divine gifts designed to reshape your perspective, refine your character, and elevate your soul. Sincerity is the foundation. It means doing things for Allah alone, not for praise, not for validation, not for attention. When your intentions become pure, Allah places barakah in your efforts. You start to notice a clarity in your decisions and a softness in your heart. Sincerity removes the ego, dissolves hidden pride, and brings you closer to Allah in a way that feels grounding and authentic. Patience is the journey. Life will test you, slow you down, and take you through moments that break you open. Patience teaches you to breathe through the storm, to trust Allah even when the path is dark, and to keep moving when the heart is tired. With patience, you stop rushing outcomes and start embracing the process. You begin to realize that Allah is working on you through every delay and every difficulty. Gratitude is the light. It shifts your focus from what is missing to what is already present. When you practice shukr, your heart begins to soften, your worries lose their grip, and you become more aware of Allah's mercy in even the smallest moments. Gratitude transforms hardship into perspective and blessings into reminders of Allah's care. Reliance on Allah, Tawakkul, is the wings that allow your soul to soar. It frees you from fear, from overthinking, from trying to control everything. When you rely on Allah, you walk with trust, knowing that what reaches you is meant for you and what passes you by was never written for your heart. Tawakkul gives you courage, calmness, and emotional stability. When these four principles intertwine, they create a spiritual blueprint that guides you through every season of life. Your heart becomes more grounded, your soul more content, and your life more aligned with divine wisdom. Transformation doesn't come from changing the world around you. It comes from allowing these Quranic truths to change you from within.